feel so moved to join us in prayer, and we stand. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come here today and make decisions on behalf of the people in this county. And simply ask that you bless our decisions of this coming prosper. In your name we pray. Amen.
This time, call the roll, please. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Commissioner Webster? Here.
Mr. McMaster did call me. He is probably about 5 minutes away, so he will be here. At this time, we will open the public hearing on the PACE program.
We need a motion to open a public hearing.
Yeah.
I'll make it.
Second. Mr. Plowman, public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now open to hear any discussion on the PACE program. We have Trustee Horvath here. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to be back from the board. If you don't know me, I'm Justin Horvath, President and CEO of Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership. I came in front of the board last month to give a brief introduction on the PACE program. It is a completely voluntary program for businesses to utilize to be able to make energy efficiency improvements through a volunteer special assessment on their property. In order to be able to do this, we need a district created. It is not a cost to the county, it's just something we need to be able to do so that businesses are eligible to participate. It's another tool in the toolbox to help businesses be able to build buildings, redevelop buildings, save energy costs, all that good stuff. So I did want to introduce today to you Todd Williams from Lean and Green, Michigan. He is part of the team that is the state administrator for this program. Get into the details a little bit more with you, but we're obviously very much in support of this. We've had several Shiawassee County businesses that have expressed utilizing this program. They just need this district created to be able to do that. So with that, Todd, you want to maybe tell the board a little bit more about PACE?
Hello. Good evening, Chair, and fellow members of the Commission. My name is Todd Williams, I'm General Counsel with Lean and Green, Michigan. Thank you for having us up today. We look forward to partnering with you. As Justin mentioned, we actually have partnered with 43 other jurisdictions. Sorry, my number's getting a little mushy because we're talking with a few other jurisdictions right now. Across the state of Michigan and administer their PACE programs on their behalf. So looking forward to partnering with you. As you mentioned, it is a voluntary, no business is going to borrow money, is assessed without their knowledge. It is the ability for them to redevelop or potentially develop new properties in an energy efficient manner. Sometimes at 100% financing of the project. Amortize it over a very long-term loan, and where your role comes in is the actual special assessment. It's a heck of a carrot for a lender to come in, be able to offer high security to their loan, for the life of their loan. So I'm available to get into as deep as the needs as anybody would like. Program we are as Lean and Green, Michigan. How a PACE project goes from start to finish.
Does anyone have any questions? So again, this is a program that we do have a number of businesses that are interested in, correct?
Yep.
And none of the other businesses that don't know about it or haven't to agree to it, will be forced into it or have to do anything. It's just kind of that extra tool that benefit those that want it and feel it being for valuable asset for their customers. So I don't really have anything myself. If anyone else has anything, is there anyone from the public hearing that has anything on the PACE program? Would you like to say anything at this time? Thank you both. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Support. Motion support. Public hearing. discussion on the agenda as presented? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 11th, 2024 Commissioners meeting.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Plowman. Support by Mr. Garber. Discussion on the minutes. Corrections. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are approved. It's time to move to our bills. Will the bills? Mr. Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to approve the invoice entry reports dated 6/11, 6/18, 6/25, 7/1, and wire transfers ACH and EFT in the amount of $4,520,041.47, and to authorize that warrants be drawn from the treasury for same.
All right, we have a motion to pay the bills. We have a support, Mr. Garber. Also, we can show Title 7, McMaster's arrival. Discussion on the bills? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner March?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster?
Yes.
And Chairman Ruth?
Yes. That motion is approved. Bills are paid. This time, we will move to our first opportunity for the public to address the board. We do have a number of slips. I imagine I will receive more, so we will be limiting it to a 3-minute time for speakers. But I'm going to first start, because I've taken a lot of calls today, and I don't know who is sending out the faulty information to many people, maybe someone on this board. But this resolution, and I put copies down here, nowhere in it does it say, do not, will not, and we're encouraging our sheriff or our prosecutor to not enforce laws that they deem unconstitutional. It says, it is further resolved that this board affirms its support for the Shiawassee County Sheriff and the Shiawassee County Prosecuting Attorney in the exercise of their sound discretion to enforce any and all constitutional firearm laws. Nowhere in there does it say we are offering them up their own opinion to determine what they think is a law or isn't a law, and they don't have to enforce, and we're encouraging them not to support. Nowhere in here does it say not, the word not enforce, and anywhere in here does it say unconstitutional, which is left up to their discretion. It is simply that we affirm our support, that our prosecutor and our sheriff make sound discretion when they enforce laws in this county. So I think a lot of people were fed false narrative on this will not and are not, and we want them not to enforce unconstitutional laws. That is not the case. So I know I took a number of phone calls on that and finally had to have somebody read me what they were reading in front of them, and that's not what's in front of us today. That being said, our sheriff and our prosecuting attorney, their job in law enforcement is to use their discretion every day in how they enforce the law. That is their job. Things do not just get sent to the courts for the judges to legislate from the bench gun laws or any law in this country. So this idea that we should just send it to the courts, how do you think things get to the courts? Things get to the courts because the legislative body makes a resolution, makes a law, and then it is fought in other areas, and then it reaches the judicial branch for them to make a ruling on. If anyone in this county wants to offer up that our judges are going to legislate from the bench, I think they should take that conversation up with our judges, because I don't think any of our judges that are in this county legislate from the bench, nor do they want to. So hopefully a little bit of that kind of clears up this idea that we're somehow telling our sheriff or our prosecutor not to enforce anything they deem unconstitutional. And with that, we will start with this. And again, we have yellow slips. I know there's a sign-in sheet for everybody that's attended, but there's also yellow slips that if anyone does want to speak at this time, you could have them turned in to Dr. Boggs, and we'll make sure we get them. But at this time, I will start with Matthew Gay from Corona on the Second Amendment.
What's your protocol up here?
Right there's fine.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Matthew. I'm new to the community. I've been here about a year and a half, and I can appreciate your oftentimes thankless job. When I was detailed to the Upper Peninsula, I was a city commissioner in Gladstone for 4 years. You don't get a lot of attaboys, so I appreciate you serving in this capacity. I'm in attendance here today in support of this resolution. We find ourselves in an awful strange place politically, that we even find a necessity to have such a resolution. It's absurd in my mind and disturbing that we actually have to have county commissions, city councils proclaim that they support a constitutionally guaranteed right. It's the rule of law, and it's just, we've gotten to a strange place in society. Many of the well-established institutions and structure of the Republican form of government, they're being ignored in lieu of party and ideological politics from the judiciary, legislature, and particularly in the executive branches. They've taken various actions that are not supported by concepts such as co-equal branches of government, separation of powers, and judicial restraint. These concepts that we've always held as being part of our structural government have been subverted, and instead they've catered to special interests, squeaky wheels, for lack of better terms, that are typically guided by emotion, driven by emotion, and they ignore data. I think this dangerous surge on the state and national level towards this mob mentality needs to be stopped. Based on this perpetual state of inaction on the state and federal level, whether it be from a lack of ability or lack of willingness to do so, this correction, of course, needs to occur on the local levels, the grassroots levels. So I support this resolution. I thank you for your leadership and clarity on this issue, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
At this time, we move to Michael Slomkowski.
Hold
Hold on, okay. We will have also a second round of public comment if you want us to talk at the end as well. We'll move to Brad Howard.
My name is Brad Howard. I'm the Burns Township Supervisor. I just wanted to come and support your guys' motion to approve the Second Amendment resolution. I'm sorry that it's even come to this state in the country that we have to support our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, but I'm glad you're doing that, and I will come up and stand up here for any of the other amendments. So it has nothing to do with guns, but all of it. You wanted to support the First Amendment, I would be here the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, right on up to change. So I want to thank you for doing that. I'm here to support you guys. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
At this time, Anthony Colbert.
Hello, my name is Anthony Colbert. I just want to thank you guys again for your support, leadership, and bringing this to the county's attention. I want to kind of touch on a few points that people that oppose this resolution brought up yesterday. The first thing I want to kind of bring to everyone's attention is when everyone comes up here and says, I support the Second Amendment, but. I feel like as soon as you put but in there, you should be saying I support the Second Amendment and. As soon as you say but, it implies that you don't even believe the statement that you first said. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't come up here and say, I support the First Amendment, but, and then list a bunch of reasons why I think none of you should be able to say what you believe. Another thing I want to bring up is a separation of powers. I really, really hope that anybody that has a serious issue with this having anything to do with the separation of powers is speaking out against our governor and her current actions against the separation of powers. Unilaterally taking control of whatever she wants to do. I mean, we don't even need to discuss it. I'm just bringing up that point. And as everyone else said, I don't think in no way are we authorizing the use of any type of discretion. We're currently just supporting the use of discretion that they use every single day. Judges, prosecutors, sheriff, we all know they do it. We don't need to bring up examples. And thirdly, you know, we all know the sheriff doesn't work for the commission. He works for the people of the county that elected him and the people that didn't elect him. So that just kind of further supports that you guys aren't giving him permission to do anything, because he doesn't work for you, he works with you. And the last thing I wanted to really point on is it was brought up by somebody that we don't want to confuse the sheriff. We don't want to confuse our prosecuting attorney. And to even imply that they have some sort of lack of knowledge or lack of professional character, that they may be confused by some sort of resolution that we're going to pass hopefully here today, it's insulting to them, I'm sure. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mardell Messenger?
I'm gonna pass.
You pass? Okay. And then I have Tim Greger from Lincoln, Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the commission. I spoke yesterday afternoon, and I hear some people saying that we were somewhat misleading. A Second Amendment sanctuary resolution is an opportunity, and if you have it worded appropriately, and I've read it, but I haven't read it the same way that you have. I've already seen it. What I see out of that, and what we see out of these most often in every situation, and this is the same as because it's come from the same place, is that it can be confusing, and not for the law enforcement people, because I support them and I come from a family of cops as well, but it's confusing for the residents of this county, the residents of this area. If I need the support of law enforcement because I'm at risk from my spouse, I want to know that if I call my sheriff, I call my deputies, they're going to act to protect me. If my spouse has a firearm and that spouse has threatened me, I want to know that I'm going to call the police and they're going to act to protect me. And if a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution like this one is passed, that leads to confusion for people who are at risk. And that's what this does. Support the Second Amendment. As I mentioned to you yesterday, I am a gun owner, and I support the Second Amendment. I'm also a pilot. I flew here yesterday, landed at Owasso Airport. Let me tell you, since 9/11, my life has changed dramatically. If you want to get on an airplane without going through security, go ahead. That's not how it works for me today. Yet I'm still able to fly. I'm still able to go places. We're still able to own our guns and still support the Second Amendment. But supporting the opportunity for law enforcement to take guns away from an abusive spouse, supporting people who necessarily may be ready to commit suicide. If I want that gun taken away so my Uncle Dick, a former law enforcement officer who took his own life with a service revolver, I want that opportunity. And this amendment, the way it's written, confuses people and gets them to think that I won't have that support if that is needed. We're not talking about taking people's guns away from them. The Second Amendment will prevent that, and I support that. But we also know that just like since 9/11, our travel life has changed. We know that spouses in an abusive situation are 11 times more likely to die because that other abusive spouse took their life with a gun. Passing this resolution will harm people and will hurt the residents of this county.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else at this time? Do you have any other slips in front of me?
I'll take my time now.
Yes, sir.
Mike Slomkowski, Durand, Michigan. Pleasure to be here. Been around firearms my entire life, well over 55 years. of hunting, shooting. Saddens me too that we have to sit into a room like this and talk about this kind of issue. Everybody speaks about our constitutional rights. What people don't speak about is our inalienable rights. Our Continental Congress passed the Constitution. The Constitution couldn't be ratified unless we had our Bill of Rights. Those rights were rights given by God, not by man or governor or government. The right to self-defense and self-preservation is an inalienable right. Nature's law and God's law. Now, when we get people up here and we start throwing out statistics and everything, we need to know where those statistics are coming from. Back in the 1980s, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but he speaks of being able to protect your spouse or myself from my spouse. Back in the 1980s, as our prosecutor, I'm sure, is aware, the Lautenberg Amendment was passed for domestic violence, making it illegal for anybody who's been convicted of domestic violence to even own a firearm. There are laws in place. In fact, the firearms industry has over 22,000 laws on the books, one of the most highly regulated industries in the world, right here in our country, the country of freedom. Michigan's Constitution and the U.S. Constitution both say that we have the right to bear arms in defense of ourselves and others. I thank you for taking the time to look at the resolution and to give your approval to the Sheriff's Department to use their discretion and to the Prosecutor's Office to use their discretion. But what we all need to remember is we have a lot of big dollar people out there pushing false statistics all over the place. Moms Demand Action, funded by the Bloombergs and others. Bloomberg, as we all know, is an anti-gun guy and has been forever. He's even resorted so low as to go into other states and falsely have people go into gun shows to try to avoid gun show loopholes, if you will. Low tactics. The fact of the matter is, while we're standing here talking about guns, we're talking about amendments, we're talking about rights, just remember, folks, this is an inalienable right. A right given to us by God, not by government. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. All right, is there anyone else at this time? Yes, sir.
Yes, Chairman, just a couple items actually not related to this. I want to speak in support of the ratification of Dr. Boggs as coordinator. I've known him for many years. He's done a great job already in this job, working very closely with him, really demonstrating a very pro-business, pro-job attitude. In fact, with his help, his leadership, we have another industrial building project coming online in Shiawassee County. We're going to be doing a groundbreaking for it next week. The Quaker folks, who you guys remember, they're expanding again and we'll be building on. So the commissioners, you're all invited to that. It'll be next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So definitely want to thank Doctor for his work on that and the collaboration. So fully support him as the permanent for Shiawassee County. He's going to do a great job for us. The second item, you probably have heard something about this. There is a small business grant program available statewide. We are going to be getting a significant amount of money for Shiawassee County small businesses, many hundreds of thousands of dollars, grants up to $20,000 to support businesses to get through this crisis. So we're helping coordinate that at a local level. So if any of you know a small business in need and might need a grant to help get through all this, please get a hold of me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to point out the distinction between the current resolution, the way it's written. I shouldn't call it it's the current resolution, but it's not on page 2, the second paragraph. There is a distinction, and I'll give this to you. There's a distinction between the original resolution, the second paragraph, the way it was written, and the way it's written now. Can I read that to you, the way the original is written? It is further resolved that this board affirms its support for the Shiawassee County Sheriff and the Shiawassee County Prosecuting Attorney in the exercise of their sound discretion to not enforce against any citizen an unconstitutional firearms law. I want you to have this. I was under the impression that we were voting on the original resolution, which includes this wording, so it just didn't come out of anywhere, but it was the very first resolution we gave to you and the members way back in the beginning. And if I could ask you too, in terms of rationale, is there a distinction between the rationale, the way it was originally submitted to you, and the way it is currently written right now?
Well, the way we decided to, normally we shouldn't engage back and forth, I will in this instance, but what it was when we were in our group talks and we had that discussion, we said, we wanted a few things, maybe we would tailor. Our sheriff at the time had some concerns with some of the, with putting the not and the unconstitutional out there. It does what it did today. It brings out everybody assuming that you're going to not enforce laws or somehow skirt around the Constitution and make up your own. So we tried to pretty certain, I thought we were in talks when we said, if it was to read and we wanted to put fear, we would not use the nots and then the unconstitutional. We would use it as we just wanted to enforce that we support our sheriff and prosecutor in their discretion on enforcing any and all constitutional laws. Now that would be, in my mind, a constitutional law would not come down that would in any way restrict or take away anyone's guns or go after. So anything that's going to happen is based off of the Constitution, which is their right to bear arms, the ability to, not just go seize their weapons, and in a sense that way. I mean, the constitutional law is already there, it's already there, we already have it in place, but, as we've seen, the not and the unconstitutional have brought out people and confused people on, in some ways, telling us where they believe we're trying to encourage our prosecutors and sheriff to not enforce laws. And I don't think that's your goal either.
No, to not, I don't want anybody trying to do anything other than enforce constitutional laws. But Anthony and I had a meeting way back when with Dan and Mike Herendeen, and this version came up, and then we ultimately got back to you guys and said we'd like to go with the original version of the resolution, the way that second paragraph was originally written. I'm just curious about, I'm still unsettled about the rationale, because my grandfather was a policeman for 30 years and he certainly exercised some discretion in terms of how he handled situations. Not that it was unlawful, but when a police officer is in a situation where they have to act and they have very little time to act, they need a little bit of wiggle room, or a lot of wiggle room. I'm not a police officer, but again, the language I find at this late date that wasn't settled with us clearly in terms of that second paragraph, because a lot hinges on that second paragraph. And I'm just going to leave it with you now. And is there anything else I can offer in terms of? Okay, but I do find that disturbing. That change was not made clear to us.
I'm not 100% sure, but in my research and my conversations, that language may have come from me, and it would have been given to me by not our prosecutor's office, not our legal counsel for the county, although they are experts at different parts of law, and they're not experts at the Second Amendment law. I went to a friend of mine who's on the NRA board who is foremost authority in Michigan and many other states on state firearms law, but obviously national law, Second Amendment to the Constitution, teaches it, written book about Michigan firearms law. I worked with her, she's on board with the NRA, attorneys from the NRA, my research. That may have been the language that I was given that covers what you talk about. And we could probably debate this for months, or years, and I love that conversation. But as the question of where it came from, that may be where it came from, was from those attorneys. I'm not 100% sure, but I can't say it came from the prosecutor's office. I know it didn't there, I know it didn't come from Bonnie's office. And I went to what I thought was foremost Second Amendment firearms law expert to say. So that's where that language may have come. I don't know if that makes a difference in the outcome or change it or whatever. But for clarification, I think that's when it happened. I know there was a little disagreement with our former county coordinator on how this whole thing was going to work, what it was going to say. That's water under the bridge. Obviously, we have a new county coordinator who's worked with us on drafting. So that's where we are. And I apologize if there was some confusion or we weren't clear and what version we were going with. My apology. This is up for us, the board, if we want to change it or for the default out or whatever we want to do. Just wanted to clear that up. I think that's, not 100% sure, I think that's where the language came from, and then that was the rationale behind it.
Do we have any other public comments this time before we move on into our agenda? All right. And then we will go into committee reports. If any commissioner has committee reports at this time.
Yeah, I'm on several boards, and the 911 board, I'm on that. They're going to borrow money. They got it in their account for all the radios, for all the police and fire department, and we're going to cost probably over $1 million. And also I'm on the health and wellness board, the mental health board. We're still doing that by Skype because of a problem over there, but they're still working and taking people in there one at a time and keeping the distances. That's working fine. We met yesterday on Alaska County Senior Citizen Board, and that's moving along all right. Just a few small issues, road leaks and a few small things. Everything else is good. I'm also on the Alaska Economic Board with Justin and keeping track of all the things over there, so he's doing a great job, so he keeps me busy. Thanks.
GST, Genesee, Shiawassee, Preliminary Region 6, reports due to not meet this month. The scheduled to meet, I believe, September next time. Parks and Rec Board did not meet this month. Parks are being used substantially. People first stay home, and they're using local facilities. We're quite pleased because we've done a lot of work in our parks. Michigan Towns Association, as summarized, they'll meet again, I believe it's September, I on there, but they're getting ready for elections, which are a big deal. And then I work with and the person that goes to the Shiawassee Road Commission meetings, and I just like to find out because of the good weather in May and June, Road Commission, their blacktop chip seal has been going along good. They're just about finished with all that. They put gravel on a lot of township roads with the cooperation of course with those townships and there's a lot of trimming going on roads, a lot of brush, but they're way ahead of us, way ahead of schedule, and they expect to be completed with all the projects. So even with, they do expect a little shortfall because of the COVID shutdown of about 15 to 20% from road money that comes in from tax and gas.
been very slow, obviously, because of COVID for the Water Trail Coalition. We had a CIS Midwest, Mid-Michigan Trail Authority meeting, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago in St. John's. A lot of discussions about budget and how much each trail can have, hold over. There's a long-term concern financially that although there is this fund that the trail only uses the interest off of money that was donated by Myers. There's a concern long-term not being enough money to maintain as many miles of trail. Additional miles have been added and created since the inception of this. So there's some funding issues possibly down the road, and I don't mean 6 months, a year, probably 20 years, 30 years from now. There was conversation of the 4 trails that are part of this. 1 trail does not have voting rights, but they do get money, we authorize money. Cindy and I were asked if, there's this discussion, if they could get voting rights, then that's actually going to go to, if that's decided, that's going to go to the Shiawassee Board of Commissioners vote, the Naomi Board of Commissioners, is that it? Is there 2 commissioner board, or is it Kent County?
No.
Not County?
No, I think it's just.
Maybe it's just Naomi and Shiawassee County. I don't really see a reason why they can't. I mean, we're giving them money, they participate more than some of the other trails. They're all, that one is always there. So that may be coming up in a couple months. I told them to draft a letter, and send it to us. That's about it. The rest of my life has been consumed with the jail garden, and everything that's going on there. We would like to say, obviously we have a shortage of inmates, but the void has been filled with, youth from the Shiawassee Youth Center, from Sarah Edwards' office, and that is, it is going very well, and I had a conversation with Chris Lab and Judge Stewart. Shortly here, we're going to have some drug court participants that need community service time, we're going to have them on there. But that's my report, that's where we're at.
The 2 boards that serve on are the Valley Area Agency on Aging and the Shiawassee Council on Aging. One of the big decisions we made last month at the AAA was to approve hazard pay for healthcare workers who went into homes all throughout the shutdown from the very beginning. There were people going into homes to care for our senior citizens, and so they've been approved for hazard pay, and that, because of how it's structured, some of that trickles down to Shiawassee County through the Shiawassee Council on Aging. And we also voted to give Cindy Mayhew some additional money as well, the Director of the Council on Aging here in Shiawassee County, because of her extensive work throughout the whole shutdown. So our seniors have been very well cared for, they've been fed. We are still not serving congregate meals at the Councils on Aging, but hope to at some point open that back up again, that people who were not on Meals on Wheels but who were getting congregate meals are having the meals delivered to them. So people have been looked after and fed and taken care of very well.
If I could add real quick, jail garden produce has been taken to SCOA to be used for those meals that are being delivered to those individuals, and they're running quasi kind of food handout. They're not coming in the building, but a certain group of seniors are showing up to get food. So some of our jail garden stuff is being distributed through SCOA, which is something that I've not worked with in the past, but I had a conversation with the director and Mr. Shuck back during the walk for warmth, and they were put on the list this summer for distribution, so they are getting county garden produce.
And they're having it outdoors, so it's, people can come up and do it outdoors without going inside with masks and all that, so. I was at the meeting yesterday.
All right, thank you. This time we'll move to economic and physical development. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to approve the community development fee schedule resolution as presented.
Support.
We and support. Fee schedule is presented. We'll do any discussion on this. Roll call, vote, please.
Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner Conlon?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster? Yes. Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber? Yes. Commissioner Rea?
Yes.
I move to approve the resolution establishing the voluntary property assessed clean energy program, PACE.
Support. Motion support, any discussion on this? Roll call, vote, please.
Commissioner Conlon?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster? Yes. Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber? Yes. Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner Rea?
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes of July 13, 2020, Economic and Physical Development Community.
Support. Motion support on minutes, is there any discussion or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say. Alright,
That concludes my economic and physical development agenda.
alright, we'll stick with you for finance and administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to ratify the county coordinator contract as negotiated and executed.
Second.
Alright, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the contract?
I've been here through several coordinators, and he's doing an excellent job. Get him on with the next one, so better than his competitors that I've been here.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And it could probably be equitable, so probably if we went down the line, we'd say the same, so.
Absolutely, yes.
So thank you, Gary, for bringing it up, thank you, Brian.
Anything else? Roll call, vote, please.
Commissioner Webster? Yes. Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber? Yes. Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner Conlon?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
I move to conditionally extend the Michigan Work Share Program dependent upon additional state or federal supplemental funding.
Second.
A motion and a support. Any discussion on this? Do we need a roll call for this, or do we need
Yes, let's do a roll call.
a roll call for this as well?
Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber? Yes. Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner Conlon?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster? Yes. And Chairman Rea?
Yes.
I move to approve the coordinator's budget memo and budget timeline as presented.
Second.
Motion and second on the budget memo and budget timeline. I think we've all seen it pretty good. Looking forward to getting that budget out and getting on it. It's gonna be a tough task, but now that we have a permanent coordinator, I think it's just a man for the job.
I'm ready for it.
All right, anyone have anything to add? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of July 13, 2020 Finance Administration Committee.
All right, we have a motion for minutes. Support. Mr. Gerber, any discussion on minutes, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Minutes are approved.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. We will move to, before we move to committee of the whole, does our Public Safety and Courts or Health and Human Service Chair have anything to add from there? If there was anything out there that you may, I know we did not meet, but.
The only thing it was brought up, like we talked, there's individuals in the sheriff's office and dispatch and potentially other places. We talked about the furlough issue, because it was an agenda meeting item, but, that's really the only thing that's kind of been brought to my attention by, well, in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then we'll move to committee of the whole. Vice Chair Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would like to move to approve the resolution to declare Shiawassee County to be a Second Amendment sanctuary county as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second is open for discussion.
So, yesterday, kind of went through several points, and I'll be real quick with my follow-up. I did receive one phone call from a constituent, a husband and wife, that were against this. They were pro-Second Amendment, but they were against this. They had a lot of mental health concerns about firearms, and I agree with them, and I'll talk about that here shortly. But I had a lot more positive emails and phone calls and conversations with people. I want to thank everyone for being here. I can look out in the crowd, and I know some of these individuals, some I don't, but I know we are like-minded, probably the safest I've felt at any public meeting. In addition, we have Officer Lawson here and Officer Shelley, and I appreciate them being here. But we all know an armed society is a polite society, so I thank you guys for attending. We were talking a little earlier, I want to talk about statistics and kind of going into mental health. You got to be careful. Some constituents have mentioned it, the chairman has mentioned it. I won't give the name of the letter that somebody has sent to us that went to Morgan, that was passed out to us. But it's kind of disturbing, and this is an individual I know, but it's just false. Second Amendment sanctuary resolution prohibits or impedes enforcement of universal gun background checks. That's Form 4473, called in through the NICS Center, through NICS. That's a federal agency form that no matter what we do today, when I go by, legally go buy a firearm, I'm going through that background check. There's a lot of questions I have to answer. I can be denied. My record is run through the FBI. It's more than just a basic lien check. It's a little more extensive. So we're not doing that. It removes the ban on high-capacity magazines and assault weapons, and this is disturbing. Assault weapons are illegal. They've always been illegal. They were illegal before the Clinton ban. By definition, they still are. Yes, there was the high-capacity magazine and some other stuff that dealt with the Clinton ban, which sunset. That only lasted for 10 years. I was given a list of statistics of mass shootings that these assault weapons have caused. When you actually look into the research, some of these mass shootings involve pyrotechnics, explosives, hunting guns, pistols. They're not all assault rifles. They weren't all high-capacity magazines. There was one in El Paso, Texas. The person should not have had a firearm. It was an Air Force database glitch. If the Air Force had been doing their job, he would have been denied when he went and bought a gun. There was a church shooting that was the shooter was stopped by an armed security person. Luckily, some states have laws that you can have security in church, and depending on your licensing and your training, you can be armed. Interesting that was not mentioned was the White Settlement shooting, where the shooter used an AR-15 rifle and then was stopped by another Texan outside, literally stopped, put down, who happened to be a law-abiding citizen carrying an AR-15 rifle in his truck. So it goes both ways, and I know there's risks, but you got to be careful when you're using these shootings and the statistics. A lot of them are mentally ill, whether there was a glitch in the database or it hasn't been reported. Legally, most of these people should not have been in possession of these firearms. Some of them, just in possession, they were breaking the law. We have the laws on the books. Some of them just need to be enforced more. Mental health, it's a big concern. It's a slippery slope. When you talk about red flag laws, and taking guns away from mentally ill people, and maybe some of that needs to happen, but who's to say who judges the mentally ill? Is it just a spouse who's upset? Is it actually a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist? So you have to be real careful. Yes, mental health is a big issue. Yes, there should be more federal and state funding for mental health. I think that's a big part of this. Education in schools. Banning guns is not the answers to stopping some of these shootings. That's just not the answer at all. And luckily, we have banned guns, and citizens can come to the aid and help and stop some of these shootings when they actually happen. So I think we need to be very careful. But once again, this is a symbolic vote. We're not stopping background checks. We're not telling the sheriff what laws he can and cannot enforce. We're not telling Prosecutor Kerner what he can and cannot do. This is a symbolic vote. It's us joining with other counties, other local officials across our state, across our country, sending a message to state legislators and federal legislators that local government whether it be in a urban area or a rural area, support the Second Amendment, and we don't support some of this legislation that you have introduced. Period. That's it. Like I said, we're not tying any ends of anybody, we're not untying any ends of anybody from enforcing or not enforcing, or buying, or whatever. We're not superseding the FBI on background checks. You just have to be careful. I appreciate the pro-gun people that have come, who have not been caught up in statistics. Numbers lie, and liars use numbers. And I appreciate that the pro-gun people here, the pro-Second Amendment sanctuary, are not popping themselves up and spouting off statistics and stuff like that, and have just spoke for what their beliefs are and what our basic belief in our Constitution and our inalienable rights. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Master. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I am a conservative because I believe that the Constitution should be interpreted the way the framers intended for it to be interpreted. And they set forth 3 branches of government: a legislative branch, an executive branch, and a judicial branch. And as has been pointed out here tonight, when the executive branch steps out of the line, that needs to be appealed through the courts. That's their function as a judicial branch. The legislature has always made laws that are unconstitutional. They do that. They write laws. They don't determine the constitutionality of them. That's determined through the courts. It's a long and laborious process, but that's how we avoid tyranny and anarchy, is that we have this system that the legislature writes laws, the judicial branch decides whether those laws stand or not. While I appreciate the intent of this resolution, it doesn't do anything to change the laws that are unconstitutional. And that would have to be done through an appeals system. And we've had discussion here tonight. I know what the resolution says now, and I appreciate the gentleman's transparency and being clear about what the intent is. You can say that we're saying, well, we support the prosecutor and law enforcement in upholding laws that are constitutional. But the flip side of that is we also support them in not upholding laws that are not constitutional. That's what it originally said. That's what the people who have created this resolution intend for it to be. And as a conservative, I can't vote for that because that undermines the constitutional provision that when a law is unconstitutional, it is not the executive branch that determines that, it is the judicial branch. And so if those laws that are unconstitutional need to go through the court system and be challenged there so that the Second Amendment rights are protected. And that's why I am voting no on this resolution.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Marks?
I'll go on record as to say that I, probably along with many United States citizens, lack confidence in the United States Supreme Court and the state Supreme Court. This is the same court that many years ago they talked about expanding it from 9 to 12 because they didn't like the way it was politically going. That was recently talked about even under the current administration when the Democrats didn't like the way things were being ruled. Let's stack the court. So the court now more than ever has become a political tool. So I do lack faith that our inalienable rights will be protected with a change of possible regime or even moving into the future, 10 years into the future. I think you're going to see a lot of your rights. We're looking at a cancel culture right now where you lose your job if you say something that you don't like. That's outrageous. You would hit someone and their family financially because they don't go along with the mantra. So don't think they won't take your guns away. Yes, they will. They're going to. It's going to happen. And so this is a stance by this county in this moment of time saying, we see what's coming, we're against it, and we're going to take a stand against it. That's all I have to say.
I guess you can talk a lot about all this stuff, but all we're doing is supporting the Constitution. That's all it is. So it's plain and simple for what's out there now. So nothing more than that. So I don't know what the big fuss is. So.
Well, I understand where Commissioner Webster is on this, whether we use the language we have or the language that was originally presented, and we vote yes on it, it's still a symbolic vote. Either way, we have no jurisdiction, no authority at all with a prosecutor or a sheriff. certainly not over enforcing national, state laws, firearms laws. I mean, we've had this discussion, this issue with employment issues, and that's a little issue. Now we're talking about a constitutional issue. We have no authority, we have no jurisdiction. Resolutions happen. We don't do a lot of resolutions here in our county. Other counties, every month, they're passing resolutions. We want more road funding, we want more this, we want more of that. MAC, Michigan Association of County, puts them out all the time and encourages these resolutions to be done and to be forwarded to the state capitol. That's what this is. This is a resolution saying we support the Second Amendment. We don't want red flag laws. We don't want common sense gun control, quote unquote. This is our position. This is what we base it. We believe our citizens support. That's all it is. We could put down whatever we want on a piece of paper. We could pass a resolution. I don't think we're going to confuse the voters because nobody really pays attention or even knows who we are at the county here and what we do. I don't think we're going to confuse battered women that they can't call 911 or they can't get a PPO or I don't know, whatever. That's not the case. This is a symbolic resolution. Other counties pass resolutions, 5, 6 of them every month. Some in support of a local person, something to the national government, something to the state government. For whatever reason, we don't do that. We rarely do resolutions. That's what this is. We're not authorizing any control for our sheriff or our prosecutor to do something one way or the other. If they want to do that, fine. And if they want to get tied up in a legal case that takes a couple of years, that's fine. That's how stuff goes in the court system. We're not encouraging it, and not discouraging it. That's up to them. And that's how stuff gets to the Supreme Court eventually. A lot of times it's local officials, this stuff happens at local government level. This is just a resolution saying you support the Second Amendment and to tell liberal, anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment politicians in Lansing and in Washington to knock it off. This is not what local governments, this is not the heartbeat of America. That's what this is about. This is not about trying to control a county by elected official, adding the power, taking away the power, anything like that. It's not about trying to confuse people, nothing to do with that. at least 45 other counties have done a resolution similar to this, or maybe a little different. There are some states where every single county has passed it. There are legislatures, including ours, around the country that have passed this. It's a symbolic resolution. It's a symbolic vote saying, knock it off. This is what our constituents feel. This is what we feel. This is what we believe is right. We want to protect our constitutional rights. And it isn't everything that you hear from Nancy Pelosi in some congressional district out of California, or some congressional district out of New York or Massachusetts, or some other very dark blue congressional district. That is not the sentiment of the nation. Certainly not the sentiment of Mid-America, Mid-Michigan, and Shiawassee County. It's not a partisan issue. It is an extreme with some of the political parties. But in Shiawassee County, Republicans, Democrats, independent voters support the Second Amendment. And I'm sure if we did a poll or we had elections, we don't believe polls, so it's a straw poll, whatever, we would find out. The Shiawassee County residents support being a Second Amendment sanctuary county.
Anything else? What I will say is I have 5 letters in front of me that were printed out in opposition. I also received emails for this and to support it, so I would like them added to the record, Dr. Boggs. I don't appreciate not you, but I don't appreciate just the negative ones that were put in front of all of us instead of the positive ones that were put out there as well. So that needs to be corrected for the record of these minutes and the meeting. But the issue of sanctuaries, I think the sanctuary becomes a problem for people too, and but the issue of sanctuaries wouldn't be a problem had the left not already taken up this issue of creating sanctuary cities and sanctuary counties to protect immigrants, illegal immigrants, from enforcement of federal law. That action set the tone for defining state and federal laws that everyone seems to be so opposed to today when we're adopting this resolution for Second Amendment sanctuary county. It's dripping with hypocrisy to support one and be so established that that is right, and then not support the next. So that's my only thing I'm gonna say about this, and we will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner McMaster?
Yes.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman?
Yeah.
Commissioner Webster? No. Commissioner Holzhausen?
Yes.
And Chairman Root?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chair, could I request at this time that we open for discussion on the GIS mapping fees?
Yes. We will have a discussion. Jana and Tony are here to discuss, sort of give us a rundown of everything that we've had going on, the letters we got back. I think most of them came pre-COVID, so we kind of want to look at, you guys have a tough act to follow.
Well, that's all we got. We've got a few requests for mostly parcel data. You know, we got the Chastain Union Schools, they're part of their districts in our county. It's for their mapping of the roads, busing schedules. We've got one from the Genesee County Drain Office because they control the sanitary sewers, and they do got some that come up into our county, into the London area, and they want to map them. And then we've got Ken Alexander, he's working with a nonprofit, and he's working with a land protection specialist of the Michigan Land Conservancy. Yeah, and what they're doing, they're working in 5 counties.
We're working in 7 counties.
Yeah,
And so far, all of them have given them complimentary access with the agreement that they'll give them to report back on what they do for the county for the planning commission.
and what they're looking at is to preserve farmland, preserve natural lands like the wetlands and stuff. That's basically what their nonprofit is looking into.
If I could interrupt real quick, how soon would they be, the only reason I ask this is because we're putting together, we're reading the master plan, and the goal is here at the end of the year. If we gave them the access, how soon would we be able to have their report back?
I'm not sure. We could ask Ken. I'm not sure.
I mean, they're working with a grant, so I know that they're on some kind of timeline with the grant.
I mean, being on the planning commission, that would be helpful, because we're talking about that, of zoning and green open space and all that stuff, so that information would be helpful. I just don't know about.
So basically, they'll give us a layer back with that information on it for the planning commission to do as they see fit with it.
We got the city of Owasso and the city of
Perry also wanting,
some information, but they've also given us information.
yeah, I mean, City of Wausau has given us their whole parcel layer, which saved the county a ton of money, not having to map those parcels for the countywide GIS. So they're just hoping to get the outside ones bordering their township because of some grant for the lead lines that they have. They can help facilitate that. The city of Perry also, some grant that they have, and they're part of the county's equalization. They use their equalization. They pay a fee for that. I don't know how that works, but I know that they're part of that. And even though they had a really old map, a paper map that was done on a computer that was a few years old, they still gave that willingly when we were doing GIS for the county that had to be updated. And it wasn't 100% updated, but it was at least a good base layer that was updated to the current stuff.
The new local DDA, we gave them some information, but at half price. It was
That was our first one that we did.
So, I guess, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I had a couple of questions. One would be, how much is being accessed? And I know there's the cost, the maintenance cost. My question would be, how much is the public and companies, businesses, how much are they paying, how much revenue are we getting off this? And not to say that we have to make money off GIS, or we have to offset the money for the maintenance and everything. Versus how much could potentially be coming from governments. I really think being a good neighbor and working with, whether it's the city of Cronut or the city of Owasso or the townships, minimum should be a discount, if not free. But On the flip side, I understand there's costs, to the operation, and we all know there's costs. So that's my question, is how much, outside of these requests, how much is coming in from?
We actually just had one today that brought in a check of $50 for 2 sections of township for, you know, possibility of building something there.
We did have one company with
We have one company that's asked us information. They haven't not pulled the trigger on it yet, but they have asked us about getting the entire county shaped parcels, which that would have been, I think, $7,500 for.
I'm sorry, how much, 75?
100.
What's our maintenance cost?
Our yearly fee on it is $4,500 a year, but the big chunk of the county uses it along with just for, I have this website up on my computer all day, every day, just to pull up things. And I know that
paid
other
in
parts
for
of-
the parcel.
that's part of keeps, that's part of the development, updating it.
We gotta pay out, you know, the company in Mount Pleasant for every parcel they pay. We gotta pay that too. So they're probably gonna be on average about $5,000 to $6,000 a year to maintain, which is pretty cheap compared to what other counties do. Yeah.
Okay, so you said there's been one municipality where we have charged?
They, was it the DDA, I mean, yes,
Oh, the
that's-
DDA.
New Ultra DDA.
And how much was that?
we charged them $300, which was half price. It was our first one, we didn't want to go, we probably should be getting permission for doing this, we were gathering them up, and then we actually were on the March meeting, but then everything that wasn't
Right.
emergent got,
The world changed.
yes.
Are we gonna have to hire another person to look after that, or? how many
No,
times-
we're doing it through our
I
office
wonder
right
how much
now.
time we gotta have it for the person that takes the time to do it. I mean,
Well, when I get the request,
everybody's not as busy as we are. I know that.
basically, when I get the request, though,
Yeah.
after, there's something they have to sign a request for, basically saying that they're not gonna use this for, they're not gonna resell the data, like, type thing, they can't just, you know, give somebody the data out, but
all
basically,
the-
once they pay and everything else, I email the company as part of our maintenance fee, and they send them the information today. I emailed them this morning after I got the check, and the person had the data by 10 a.m. So basically, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., the person had their data that they requested, and it was done.
Yeah, but are we gonna start having, I mean, what people are gonna find out about, are you gonna have 50 a day or 100
It's,
a
well,
day?
it's publicly on the website, so anybody can find it anyway.
But we're only talking about municipalities, so we're
Or
only talking
nonprofits type thing. that's what
20
I'm thinking about, yeah.
whatever, how many 16 townships, cities, villages, what are we at, 26, 28, I don't know. Plus maybe DDA.
Individuals can get it without any fee?
No, they have to pay. We're only talking about what, correct me if I'm wrong, are we also talking about a public fee schedule, or are we just talking about intergovernment?
There-
fee schedules.
For the public?
Yes.
We're just talking about our neighbors that are cities, townships, whatever.
Or the nonprofit that might be
Or
offering,
nonprofit.
that might be offering a reciprocal agreement.
They're collaborating with us, the idea is, so like you said, they're not trying to, what's that?
School district.
School district, oh, okay, add them in.
You know, they can go online and use our GIS
For free.
They just can't get the parcel data.
They can't purchase it to put in their own system to
Yeah.
manipulate or do what they want to do with it.
They can't.
So do we have any pressing needs or something somebody needs?
City's
like,
been,
right
City
away,
of
or-
Perry's been persistent on it because of they need it for a grant that they're working on, and getting it from us would be a lot easier and probably better than having to have someone redraw it for them.
And
and-
Ken Elizon with them 7 counties, they want, if they get the information from us, they're gonna get going on theirs too. They've got a student from the University of Michigan that's gonna be working on this for them, and they're ready to go.
You know, my philosophy, whether it's on GIS or some of this other stuff, we're a government, we provide services. We don't have to be making a profit. We should be getting some revenue to offset expenditure costs. We've had this big conversation with other resources and fees and fines and everything in our county. If people are using that data, then they're using it to make their own maps and sell and stuff. That's different, that's the public, there's that fee schedule. But these are these are our colleagues, these are our neighbors, these are our regional collaborators. We always don't get along with each other, but you gotta put all that aside and not think about people or individually elected officials. You gotta think big picture, you gotta think local municipalities, county working together. Like I said, I'm not saying necessarily we give it away for free, certainly a discount, I think, a minimum of discount is in order. And really, how many times are they really gonna come to us? I mean, really, is everyone gonna come to us? No.
They might start hearing it from other municipalities, but again, we do have an agreement already with the state of Michigan that was brought up, that we gave them their parcel later, and every 5 years it is, they're gonna fly over the county. We have 2015 aerial data on there right now that the drain office got with, in conjunction with the state. And I think once we have the 2020 or 2021, depending on when they fly it over and when we get it, once that goes up there, I think people are gonna wanna buy that. Which in the fee schedule currently, for the 2015 data, which it started 5 years old.
The public.
The public, yes.
Yes, because it's an updated.
Public or businesses.
It's an updated aerial view of
Yes.
the property, yeah.
So when 2020, or when the 2020 or 2021 hits, I think that might be something people will actually be more willing to buy, because who wants 5-year-old data already? You know what I mean, to purchase it, and if somebody actually purchases the entire aerial data for the county, from the county for the new data, or if we don't raise it or not, it's currently $10,000, so that would actually cover, and like I said.
And there are people, I sent you a year or two ago, there's a company that said these national hunting shows, conventions I go to, you can have your farm, your hunting land, your hunting camp plotted out, it starts at $75. And it goes up from there depending on how big and how many pieces of paper you need. So there are companies out there that are making money. There is a market for that.
And
I can do that.
we still are working on correcting these parcels. Everything ain't corrected yet in the county.
100%.
100%, and they send that to us, and we send it to Mount Pleasant to get it fixed.
I have a Google Docs on there where people can report a problem with their parcel, that I copy and send it over to equalization regularly.
So what did we?
Just one second, Commissioner Bond.
Yeah. With the DTA and up in New Ulster, we charge them $300.
Which was half price, yeah.
Yeah, is that a realistic price? I know the city of Perry would, like this information, and we even discussed yesterday about discussing this again next month. But if it's $300 a realistic figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we did our fee schedule, we kind of modeled it after other counties who had it on their website already. I basically compiled the ones that I knew about and just kind of looked at them and.
And we should have probably looked at this sooner, because
Clinton
if
said,
we would have, if New Lothrop would have known we was getting the GIS, because they went ahead and they paid, I think, 25 or 30,000 and got GIS for the village. They just would have paid back onto us, paid a fee every year to use ours, instead of having their own. Yeah. So.
Well, maybe a suggestion when we talk about fees, maybe that $300 level, we'll use the rest of this year, and we'll develop something between now and the end of the year to start January.
Well, that's not 300, that's the 50%.
Yeah, that was 50%. No, it's normally $600.
Because that was just for,
That's right.
that was just the downtown development district in Grove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if a farmer wants half the county or a developer wants,
But I'll allude to you, I mean, a lot of us work together with different governmental entities, we share information and things, so realistically, we try to give them a better deal because they give us stuff all the time.
Village of Elsie's fire chief, I believe, Mr. Grinnell, also inquired. I don't know exactly what he wants. He just asked if I was the right person. I responded. I haven't heard back from him yet. I don't know what exactly he wants to
Well, ask him what the other 3 counties in his fire district are doing.
So I'm assuming that, I don't know if he just wants maps printed or if he wants data. So he might be another person on the list.
He wants maps or he wants clear radio transmissions. We
Yeah.
probably do the maps.
We probably want, because I think even when we was going through this 911, they're updating theirs too, to make sure the addresses are right and not sending an ambulance to the wrong address, and the fire department to the wrong address. That's what I think he's gonna use this for.
And like I said, they're 4 counties, so
So where we kind of,
the numbers don't match.
so what are we thinking? Are we wanting, so the Perry's not held up, we want to kind of do a 50%?
I have a few questions, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
would the drain department be overwhelmed if we were to make it free, outright to other municipalities?
Not really, no.
Because I know that would probably be unpopular on the board, but I view it as this is taxpayer money. Whether they're in that municipality paying taxes, they're still paying taxes to us. We don't want to double dip the taxpayer. So why don't we just make it free to other municipalities?
So what do we want to go for? We do them back $300?
How about when you go to the clerk's office, and all the other offices, there's fee. And they're public pay.
Yeah, but not from.
We can't have,
That's for the public, that's not.
the difference is the same money.
Well,
Agree, and the thing about it is, and I talked to a few townships, that we should work with these townships and start working. They wouldn't even mind helping us, you know, in the future if they got a project that they can use to help pay for it, you know what I mean?
In
And it
Saginaw,
won't be a big fee for it, you know?
in Saginaw County, they have a actual like mapping GIS department that they charge, what is it, like $1 parcel total?
Yeah.
Throughout the whole county, that pays for everything with their GIS, it actually even pays for an employee that,
say the private employee too.
well, that pays for the employee to actually update everything and keep it on the thing. The city of Owasso has a GIS employee that I've used as a resource to help me muddle through some stuff that I've not been familiar with, because I mean, I'm not self-taught completely, I've taken a couple small little 1-2 day, not a seminar, but some kind of class, training class, and that's the gist of it, both fiddling around. Fortunately, with the Fetch GIS portion of it, anything I need or want, I just contact Amalgam, and they do that for us.
See, in for our drains, we're still purchasing our GIS, which is a little bit more detailed for our.
Which is not
for our drains.
publicly
Yeah,
on the website or anything.
that's.
You know, I guess I'd like to add, and we're having a discussion about free, discounted to other municipalities. You know, you look at City of Toronto, we are the biggest, utility for their water. And I don't know, I know they reduced the payment during COVID, or was skipped the payment, or whatever, but I mean, I'm just saying. I know we haven't always got along with our host municipality here, but, you know, that's something they did. They extended it to, obviously, the public, but they also extended it to us as a government. And we were the largest saver of money, and I don't know if that's Tracy, how much money we saved, but I know it was quite a bit of money for our water bill.
It was in one of your reports, it was substantial.
I don't know, I mean, ballpark, like,
It's quite a bit, I don't remember.
so. Other municipalities, you know, like Commissioner Thomas says, we work, there's a lot of cooperation. But I understand what Commissioner Holzhausen is saying, no such thing as a free lunch, and we have costs, and we need to offset revenue. I certainly get that.
They're already working on brain things, and then they got more things to do, and everybody's not as efficient as Jim is.
I know.
We look at this, so I mean, if we did,
10 times faster than a normal
I
person.
think we've got 5 of them here, if we went that route to help them, and then see what we do get back from them. We know the city of Berry, and we know the city of Wassel's already given us stuff back. They work back and forth with us. And this nonprofit that's doing this plan deal in the county, we'll see once if that later, like you said, it would help with
The master plan.
master.
Remember when I thought about it when Tony mentioned it.
For example, what would the Perry one cost as it is right now?
$600.
$600.
$600 without a discount?
Yes.
So that would be $300.
That'd be half off.
Half off.
I'm sure they can afford that, they're not that broke, so.
But they do pay the county already for equalization services, and this is kind of an equalization service also. So I mean, I see both sides of it, and
We're already paying taxes, you know, so everybody.
But, and we gotta be able, because they do give us a lot of information in the drain office, you know, when assessing comes around, you know, I mean, it's different things.
I'm on the phone regularly during June through August, talking to municipalities and their assessors and for their people to figure out what happened to a parcel, what did this, what, get more information on stuff just to use it regularly.
So, Jenna, you said when you established the fee schedule, you looked at what, Clinton?
I
Saginaw?
basically got online, and anybody that was part of Amalgam's thing, there's a whole bunch of them, and I just looked at the website to see if they had anything on their website publicly available for me to And I grabbed like 3 or 4 counties that had it on their website and just kind of looked at it. I went over it with Larry, the health department, and then together we did it and then brought it here.
But Clinton, Saginaw were two.
I can't remember for sure. I know that Clinton, Saginaw, Midland, Genesee, Gratiot, all use that. That's GIS. So like, I mean, Genesee County actually charges for you to do a lot of stuff on theirs.
I know Phil over in Clinton County, he was saying that their GIS department does give some things to certain things, as long as they're gonna get something back.
So we're kind of in a budget anyway. Yeah, we're kind of in a sort of, we're at 50% or a half or free. That's kind of where we're moving at. What's the?
And I will say we probably would have paid I mean, I can't say for sure for the commissioners, but at the $4,500 per year that we pay, it said that a lot of the county uses the same, in any part of the county departments that have to look up stuff. I know that equalization, community development, register of deeds, treasurer's office, our office. I know that I printed maps from this for the clerk's office for voting, or the voter districts. I think there's actually a map in your guys' office also that we did from the layers.
I have a question and then maybe a comment. So the fees that you pay, the costs that are associated with this, are those covered by what the public pays in fees? Or is there still a sort of a deficit to the county?
It's still new and not everybody knows about it, but the hope is eventually to have it being covered by fees. This has only been out for publicly since April of 2019. And when we actually had our press release for it, there was something else going on that kind of overshadowed it. So not everybody knows that this is out there yet.
So would it make sense?
I think it actually was the
It was because Tony went and we needed maps. We needed better maps than we had. Because we had to go knock door to door and we actually needed to know who lived where. And we were knocking doors and Tony went and got some maps.
And I actually
I think John made the maps and Tony delivered it.
I actually sent the website because at that time during the tornado it was still just for county use and we actually sent it out to the municipalities also said, hey, play with this, please only keep this if you think they're doing a soft release of it. And I actually sent this to pretty much all the first responders that were actually checking on the tornado victims so they can look to see who owned that property, if
You had another question?
So, well, I would just make a suggestion maybe that it might make sense to set it at 50% or $300 for the rest of this year and maybe a little beyond that while we kind of figure out how much are we making on it, what is the uncovered cost, and then if at some point we can offer it for free to municipalities, then that would be a great thing to do. It's easier to go down than to go up, right? I think most.
Or is it, or we should do an agenda item next month?
I would-
Just discussion.
Should do it now, so we can get Terry going.
Just-
So we have, just one second. We have a support, we have a motion on the table for 50% for the remainder of the year.
Support.
With redoing it, looking at it, relooking at it. Dr. Boss and I look at it through the year, looking at what we're getting in with them, with Tony and Jenna, and then we'll revisit it in the new year.
You guys.
So we have a motion on the second, and then we will go to discussion.
Well, yeah, I'm fine with as long as we know because, we already told them that it was the fee schedule
Yeah,
set by you guys. Yeah.
This will work you guys through and we're not gonna offend anybody, you don't think?
I don't think so, and, nothing about it, we're probably 20 years behind. This should have been in place 20 years now, so.
Let's be specific about what it covers between now and the end of the year. It covers municipalities, so that would be all cities, villages, etc. Nonprofits, so they have to have a 501c3 status that they have to demonstrate to you. You can't just take their word for it.
Okay, C3,
School districts.
school districts,
That's it.
EDAs are.
PDAs are technically municipalities. They're a special assessment district that's part of the municipality.
I think that would cover it.
Anything else? Anyone else?
Better than we have now.
if, like I said, if they're offering to
Is that the
swap.
conservancy one?
Yeah, like if they're offering
Sure,
to swap
there's-
seats, that type thing, like that too, I mean, they're offering other data to hopefully get it for complimentary, is what.
I would say C3, if somebody wants to share other data we don't have, whether it's whatever, maybe we have that conversation down the road.
That's just a.
Okay, yes, we have that motion now on the table, so.
Who motioned?
Commissioner Webster, seconded by Commissioner Plum.
And then, so we have the three, the school districts, municipalities, C3, and DDAs.
DDAs are part of the municipality.
Okay, so what was,
Municipalities, school districts, 501c3s.
The school district is not only Moody school districts, but also the RSC, correct?
They're technically a district.
Yes.
I do got
They're a district code.
one quick thing before we go, you know, this conservancy thing is the whole county. And that's $7,500, you know, so, and they won't be able to afford $3,000. That's because the grant basically is covering their
I
in.
guess then I would say have a conversation with them,
Okay.
find out what they can afford,
Or-
come back to us.
All right.
Right? I mean, that's the thing we should do.
Yeah. All right, anything further on this? We have a motion on the table now. Thank you, Jen and Tony. We'll roll call vote.
Do we have to have two-thirds vote to add it to the agenda as a formality? So someone has to say.
No, that's why I made sure I had it at the agenda. Yes. Ready for roll call.
Commissioner Garber?
Yes.
Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner Plummer?
Yes.
Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster?
Yes.
Chairman Rowe?
Yes. All right, motion is approved.
Mr. Chair, this time I would like to move to approve the minutes of the July 15th, 2020 regular meeting.
All right, we have a motion with the minutes. Do we have a second?
Support.
Second here, Commissioner Garber. We have minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Vice Chair Marks has now done with his report.
Yep, that'll conclude our Mr. Chair.
That's a long report.
Thank you. It was a good report. There are no other agenda items to come before the board this month. My report, I have nothing. Actually, do I have anything? I'll let Dr. Boggs go into what he needs to talk about now, coordinator's update.
So most of everything I gave you yesterday, but I just want to say thank you for approving my contract. I'm looking forward to working with you guys for a long period of time. Yesterday, we did submit both of those grants for CARES. The final number for the one for reimbursement was $1.5 million that we're hoping to get. And then $53,000 for the first responders. Tomorrow, we will be meeting to talk with the MDOC. And outside of that, I don't think I have anything else. I won't be sending out an update this week because we met here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have anything, Dr. Boggs?
There's one item, I'll show up. Apologize. There is you may have heard about in the news, there's some money that's coming down from the feds for help, assistance with evictions. I don't want to call it an eviction court, but I was asked to sit with a group of individuals this last weeks. A lot of different entities, magistrate, CACS, and some others, setting up the guidelines on how this is going to work. Basically, if you've been affected, you still have a little bit on your back rent, but the idea is you don't get evicted. Your landlord's still going to recover some money. You're still going to have skin in the game. I don't know the percentage, 10%, 20% or something. There's a lot of funds down, a lot of funds from Shiawassee County. So that's being set up. You're going to hear more about in the next weeks. Probably be a press release about that by our next meeting. So there's relief for tenants and landlords in Shiawassee County. And we've heard from some landlords, maybe they have 7 rentals and 6 rentals are at the eviction point. So for whatever reason, people didn't get the unemployment or, whatever, stuff happens. But there's outside money that's coming in, that's going to help our residents and our business owners. It's kind of for us, yes, yes, it's taxpayer money, it's all our money, but it's a win-win for us. If we want to do some houses, so we have a little more stability in the community. Houses or homes, whether it's an apartment or a house or whatever. Landlords are going to get some revenue that's owed to them. So, more details, more to follow, right, Commissioner Gerber? That's it, I'm done.
All right, moving back into the last opportunity for the public to address the board here today, with the understanding that we are limiting it to 3 minutes per speaker, if anyone has anything.
May I ask? Good as our governor. Yes, I have good news. That's what I'm here for, just strictly good news. And the good news is I waited to tell you this until after you voted this thing in. We had just under 10,000 watches on the video that I put up last night. I didn't say anything, I just put the video up and said, what do you think? And one of that 10,000 views, 10,000 watches, we had 146 thumbs up, 40 hearts, and only 3 angry faces. We had 60 comments. And I didn't say who voted against it, but they got some nasty comments on the person who voted against it. And I'm glad I didn't have their name on. Over 50 were positive they wanted this. Only a few, very, very few were against it. So you did what our county wants. So I just thought I'd let you know. So that's the good news. The other good news, just because this last meeting, until a little bit, we only have 4 cases yet of COVID in this county. We still only have 4 cases. We have nobody in the hospital, and everyone is good. So thumbs up. A word in mask. But at least get one better than mine that says, mine says this mask is as useless as our governor's. So it's not a very good mask.
Public comments, does anyone else have public